The easiest way to discover a person's true character is to let them believe you have nothing. The grand opening of Carter National Bank's newest downtown branch was supposed to be a celebration of success, but before the ribbon had even been cut, the lobby was already divided by invisible lines. Customers wearing tailored suits were welcomed with bright smiles, while anyone dressed in worn clothes waited longer than everyone else. Standing quietly beside the entrance was Ethan Carter, wearing a navy blue security uniform with a simple plastic name tag that read, Ethan Brooks. No one looking at him could have guessed that he was the only son of billionaire banking legend Victor Carter, the founder of the entire institution. To every employee walking past him, he was just another low-paid security guard hired through a staffing agency. His uniform was slightly faded, his shoes were inexpensive, and his lunch sat inside a plain paper bag tucked beneath the security desk. That was exactly how Ethan wanted it. 3 days earlier, his father had proudly handed him the keys to the family's future, offering him a prestigious executive office and a fast track to becoming the next chairman. Ethan had smiled politely before quietly refusing. He had spent years studying finance, leadership, and corporate ethics. But none of those lessons answered the question that had followed him since childhood. Did people respect the Carter name? Or did they simply respect the money behind it? Instead of accepting the corner office, Ethan proposed an experiment that left his father speechless. He wanted to start at the very bottom. He wanted no special treatment, no introductions, and no protection. Victor reluctantly agreed on one condition. If Ethan walked away before the experiment ended, the deal would be over forever. Ethan accepted without hesitation. Now, as the morning crowd poured through the revolving doors, he watched everything carefully. Wealthy clients were greeted before they even reached the reception desk. Elderly visitors carrying folders waited patiently without anyone offering assistance. Employees hurried past custodians without making eye contact. Every small interaction revealed another layer of the culture hidden beneath polished marble floors and expensive artwork. Then the front doors opened once again. A woman carrying 2 overflowing boxes nearly lost her balance as the automatic doors swung behind her. Several employees noticed her struggle, but continued walking toward the conference room, unwilling to interrupt their conversations. Ethan immediately stepped forward, taking the heavier box with a warm smile before she could protest. "Thank you," she said, catching her breath. "I'm Olivia Brooks. Today is my first day as a teller." Ethan smiled. "Looks like we're both new here." Neither of them realized that within a few hours, one public moment inside this beautiful bank would quietly expose the hearts of everyone watching, and Ethan's greatest test would begin before the day was even half over. The rest of the morning unfolded like a quiet lesson that only Ethan seemed willing to notice. Every smile, every impatient sigh, every dismissive glance became another piece of a much larger picture. He stood near the entrance, greeting customers with the same calm respect, whether they arrived wearing expensive designer suits or faded denim jackets. Some returned his greeting with kindness, but many walked past as though he were part of the building itself. None of it surprised him. What caught his attention was how differently people were treated, depending on what they looked like. Olivia quickly settled into her station behind the teller counter, and despite being new, she greeted every customer with genuine warmth. When an elderly man struggled to organize paperwork for a new checking account, several employees quietly avoided eye contact, hoping someone else would help him. Olivia stepped away from her workstation, offered him a chair, explained every form patiently, and even found a pair of reading glasses the branch kept for visitors. Ethan noticed the grateful smile on the man's face as he left. It was the first sincere smile he had seen all morning. Moments later, branch manager Monica Hayes emerged from her office in a tailored gray suit, carrying a tablet and wearing the confident expression of someone determined to impress corporate leadership. She barely acknowledged Ethan before handing him a list of additional duties that had nothing to do with security. She asked him to move supply boxes, organize promotional displays, and deliver packages to different departments before noon. Ethan simply nodded and accepted every assignment without complaint. Across the lobby, Brandon Lewis watched with an amused grin. The senior security supervisor folded his arms and chuckled quietly. He told another guard that the new hire looked eager enough to do everyone's work for them. The comment earned a few laughs, but Ethan ignored them. His goal had never been comfort. It was truth. Around lunchtime, a woman wearing simple clothes entered the bank, carrying a worn envelope. She hesitated before approaching the reception desk, clearly nervous. Monica glanced at her briefly before directing her to wait, even though several wealthier clients who had arrived later were invited ahead of her. Ethan noticed the disappointment in the woman's eyes. Olivia noticed it too. During a brief pause between transactions, she walked over, apologized for the delay, and personally helped the woman begin her paperwork. The relief on the customer's face lasted only a moment before Monica called Olivia back sharply, reminding her that important clients should always come first. Olivia quietly returned to her station, but Ethan saw the conflict in her expression. She wanted to help everyone equally, yet she was already feeling pressure to follow a different standard. As the afternoon sun reflected against the glass walls of the lobby, Ethan realized his experiment was revealing far more than he expected. Behind polished counters and polished speeches, invisible rules shaped every decision. Then the front doors opened once again, and a sharply dressed man carrying a leather briefcase stepped inside with an expression that suggested he expected immediate attention. Within seconds, the atmosphere inside the branch shifted, and Ethan sensed that the first real test of the day had just arrived. The man with the leather briefcase crossed the lobby, as though the entire building existed for his convenience. Before he even reached the reception desk, Monica hurried forward with a polished smile, personally welcoming him, while quietly asking another employee to postpone everyone else waiting in line. Several customers exchanged disappointed looks, but no one complained. Ethan observed every reaction from his post near the entrance. The visitor introduced himself as Richard Langley, a successful real estate investor interested in opening several commercial accounts. Within moments, coffee was served, conference room doors opened, and senior staff gathered around him. Ethan could not help noticing how quickly courtesy appeared when wealth seemed obvious. Less than 10 feet away, the elderly gentleman Olivia had helped earlier was still carefully organizing his paperwork before leaving, unnoticed by nearly everyone else. During the afternoon, Ethan continued carrying out every assignment Monica gave him. He delivered office supplies, helped a maintenance worker move equipment, and even held the elevator for customers without expecting acknowledgement. Most people walked past him without making eye contact. A few thanked him politely. Brandon, however, seemed determined to remind Ethan of his place. Every hour he found another task that conveniently belonged to someone else. Ethan accepted each request calmly, making no effort to defend himself. His silence only encouraged Brandon to continue. Olivia watched several of these exchanges from behind the teller counter. During her short break, she approached Ethan with 2 bottles of water from the employee lounge. She handed him one with a friendly smile. "You have been on your feet all day," she said. "Everyone deserves a chance to rest for a minute." Ethan thanked her sincerely. It was a simple gesture, but after hours of being overlooked, genuine kindness carried unexpected weight. Before they could continue talking, Monica called Olivia back, reminding her that conversations during business hours reflected poorly on the branch. Olivia apologized and returned to work without argument. Yet Ethan noticed that she still smiled at every customer who approached her window. As closing time drew closer, the lobby finally became quiet. Employees began balancing cash drawers, organizing documents, and preparing reports. Ethan helped an older janitor gather empty boxes for recycling. While carrying them through a hallway leading toward the administrative offices, he accidentally overheard a conversation behind a partially open conference room door. Monica's voice sounded unusually tense. She asked whether several transaction files had already been moved before tomorrow's internal review. Another voice answered that everything had been adjusted exactly as requested, and that no one would notice a few missing records among thousands of daily transactions. Ethan paused only for a heartbeat before continuing down the hallway, as though he had heard nothing at all. He kept his expression completely neutral, but his thoughts immediately changed. Until that moment, he believed he was testing character. Now he realized he might also be uncovering something far more serious, hidden beneath the polished reputation of the bank. As he stepped back into the quiet lobby, Olivia waved goodnight before leaving through the front doors. Ethan watched the employees disappear into the evening, knowing tomorrow would no longer be about observing ordinary behavior. Somewhere inside the building, someone was working very hard to keep an important secret from ever coming to light. The next morning, Ethan arrived 30 minutes before sunrise, determined to pay closer attention to everything happening beyond the front lobby. He completed his routine security inspection, checked every entrance, and greeted the maintenance crew by name. They seemed surprised that someone wearing the same uniform cared enough to remember them. One custodian quietly admitted that most employees barely noticed the people who kept the building clean. Ethan listened more than he spoke. Every conversation revealed another piece of the culture hidden beneath the bank's polished image. By 8 o'clock, the branch was once again filled with customers, ringing phones, and hurried conversations. Olivia continued treating every visitor with patience, even as the growing pressure around her became impossible to ignore. Monica repeatedly reminded the staff that speed mattered more than conversation, and that premium clients should always receive priority. Olivia nodded respectfully, but Ethan noticed she still found small moments to help confused customers understand forms or answer questions without making them feel embarrassed. That simple kindness stood out more with each passing hour. Meanwhile, Brandon seemed to enjoy making Ethan's day increasingly difficult. He reassigned patrol schedules without explanation, instructed Ethan to monitor loading deliveries alone, and even asked him to replace burned-out light bulbs, despite knowing that maintenance workers handled those responsibilities. Ethan never argued. He simply completed each task with quiet professionalism. Brandon interpreted the silence as weakness. Ethan recognized it as another opportunity to observe how people behaved when they believed someone had no influence. Shortly before lunch, Ethan walked through the records hallway again, while delivering office supplies. The administrative office door was partially open. He noticed several storage boxes labeled for document archiving, sitting beside filing cabinets that should have been locked. Monica stepped out quickly, closing the door behind her the moment she saw him. Her pleasant smile appeared forced. She thanked him for the supplies, then casually asked why he had been walking through that hallway so often. Ethan apologized politely and explained that he was simply following the delivery instructions he had been given. Monica watched him leave with an expression that suggested she was measuring whether he had seen more than he should have. Later that afternoon, Olivia discovered that one customer's loan paperwork had disappeared only minutes before an appointment. She searched every drawer, growing more anxious by the minute because the missing file delayed the meeting. Ethan quietly remembered seeing a folder with the same customer name inside one of the archive boxes earlier that day. Without drawing attention to himself, he mentioned where she might look. Olivia found the file exactly where he described. She smiled with visible relief and thanked him sincerely. Monica overheard the exchange and quickly interrupted, insisting that security employees should never involve themselves in administrative matters. Olivia apologized, but Ethan noticed something important. Monica seemed far more concerned about who found the file than about why it had been misplaced in the first place. As the bank closed for the evening, Ethan looked across the nearly empty lobby and realized the pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. Small mistakes always seemed to benefit the same people, while honest employees carried the blame. He had entered the branch hoping to learn whether people judged others by appearance. Now he was beginning to suspect that appearances were also hiding a carefully organized secret, and someone inside the bank was becoming increasingly nervous that the quiet security guard might uncover it. The following morning began with an unusual sense of tension that Ethan could not explain. The branch looked exactly the same from the outside. Customers lined up before the doors opened. Employees hurried through the entrance carrying coffee cups and laptop bags. Yet something about the atmosphere felt different. Monica seemed unusually distracted, checking her phone every few minutes before disappearing into the administrative offices. Brandon spent more time walking through restricted hallways than watching the lobby. Ethan quietly memorized every detail while performing his normal security rounds. Shortly after 10 o'clock, a series of system alerts flashed across several employee computers. Transaction screens froze for a few seconds before restarting. Customers began asking why deposits were taking longer than expected. The information technology department assured everyone that the interruption was only temporary, but Ethan noticed Monica exchange a worried glance with another supervisor before quickly forcing a smile for the waiting customers. Olivia remained calm despite the growing line. She apologized sincerely to every customer for the delay and patiently explained that their accounts were secure. Her calm voice eased growing frustration, proving once again that genuine respect accomplished more than expensive advertising ever could. While helping direct customers toward available service desks, Ethan noticed Brandon quietly carrying 2 archive boxes toward a storage room that should have remained locked during business hours. A few minutes later, Brandon returned without the boxes, looking noticeably relieved. Ethan said nothing, but the image stayed fixed in his mind. During his afternoon patrol, he passed the same storage room. The door had not closed completely. Inside, he noticed several folders spread across a table beside a portable document scanner that was still powered on. Before he could look any closer, footsteps echoed behind him. Monica appeared almost instantly and politely asked whether he had become lost. Ethan apologized and explained that he was simply confirming every restricted door remained secure. Monica thanked him with a practiced smile that never reached her eyes. As Ethan walked away, he realized she had locked the door immediately after entering. An hour later, another unexpected problem developed. Several customers reported that electronic receipts for completed transactions had not appeared in their email accounts. Employees blamed the earlier system interruption, but Ethan observed something else. Each missing receipt involved accounts connected to files that had recently been moved through the administrative offices. The pattern seemed too consistent to be a coincidence. Even Olivia quietly admitted that she had never seen so many unusual technical problems happen on the same day. Before the branch closed, she thanked Ethan for helping several elderly customers find the correct service desks during the delays. She smiled and said that people often underestimated how much a kind security officer could improve someone's day. Ethan appreciated her words more than she realized. As employees prepared to leave, he glanced once more toward the restricted hallway. The lights inside the records office remained on long after everyone else had finished working. Someone was still inside, carefully protecting a secret that grew larger with every passing hour, and Ethan knew the truth was now much closer than anyone inside the building imagined. By the end of the first week, Ethan understood that the greatest danger inside the branch was not loud mistakes, but quiet habits that everyone had stopped questioning. Every morning, the same employees gathered around the coffee station, sharing rumors about promotions and bonuses, while ignoring the maintenance crew working only a few feet away. Every afternoon, the same customers received immediate attention because their expensive watches and tailored clothing suggested large account balances. Ethan continued watching, without revealing a single clue about his true identity. His greatest advantage was that almost no one considered a security guard important enough to notice. That invisibility allowed him to see everything. Olivia remained the exception. She greeted him every morning with the same warm smile, asked how his day was going, and thanked him whenever he helped a customer find the correct office. Her kindness never seemed calculated. It came naturally, whether she was speaking to the bank president, a delivery driver, or the elderly janitor sweeping the hallway. Ethan quietly admired that quality, because it could not be purchased or taught during executive training. Late that afternoon, the Regional Operations Department announced a surprise compliance review that would begin the following morning. The news spread through the branch almost instantly. Some employees shrugged without concern, but Monica's confident expression disappeared. She immediately gathered several supervisors behind closed doors and instructed everyone to stay late organizing records. Brandon was told to restrict access to the administrative hallway and to question anyone who entered without authorization. Ethan listened carefully as Brandon repeated those instructions with unusual urgency. As evening approached, Olivia finished balancing her cash drawer and noticed that one customer account summary no longer matched the paperwork she had processed earlier that day. She quietly mentioned the discrepancy to Monica, expecting appreciation for catching a possible error. Instead, Monica dismissed the concern and instructed her to leave the documents alone because management would handle everything. Olivia looked uncomfortable but reluctantly returned to her desk. Ethan noticed the exchange from across the lobby. He could tell Olivia wanted to ask more questions, yet she also feared creating trouble during her first week. After the last customer left, Ethan completed one final security walk through the building. As he passed the records office, he heard the sound of a document scanner running long after business hours. Through a narrow opening in the blinds, he saw stacks of files spread across a conference table, while Monica and another supervisor quietly compared account numbers against printed reports. Several folders were placed into new archive boxes with fresh labels that had clearly been prepared only moments earlier. Ethan did not stop. He simply continued walking, committing every detail to memory. Outside, the evening sky grew darker as employees finally headed home. Olivia waved goodbye before getting into her small sedan, completely unaware that she had already become part of something much larger than a new banking job. Ethan remained standing near the entrance for another moment, staring back through the glass doors. Tomorrow's compliance review would either expose the truth or convince someone inside the branch to take even greater risks to keep it hidden. And for the first time since putting on the security uniform, Ethan believed the experiment was about to change everyone's lives. The compliance review began exactly at 9 o'clock the next morning, and the atmosphere inside the branch changed the moment a team of corporate auditors walked through the front doors. Every conversation became more careful. Every smile looked rehearsed. Monica greeted the visitors with flawless confidence, offering a tour of the branch while assuring them that every department exceeded company standards. Ethan remained near the entrance, quietly observing as though he were simply performing another routine shift. The auditors examined customer service procedures, security logs, and transaction records, while employees worked under growing pressure. Olivia answered every question honestly and provided every document requested without hesitation. She had nothing to hide, and her calm professionalism impressed the review team. Monica praised her publicly, but Ethan noticed the compliment sounded forced. Throughout the morning, Brandon repeatedly found excuses to interrupt the auditors whenever they approached the administrative records room. He insisted that archived files were being reorganized and would be available shortly. One of the auditors politely reminded him that records should never become unavailable during a compliance inspection. Brandon laughed awkwardly and promised everything would be ready within minutes. Ethan watched the exchange carefully. The more Brandon tried to control where people walked, the more suspicious his behavior became. Shortly before noon, Olivia discovered another account summary that did not match the electronic transaction history displayed on her computer. This time she quietly compared the digital record with the printed documents and realized several dates had been changed after the original paperwork had already been processed. She approached Monica respectfully and explained what she had found. Instead of thanking her, Monica lowered her voice and advised her to stop asking unnecessary questions during an important review. Olivia returned to her desk, feeling unsettled. Ethan could see disappointment in her eyes, yet she continued serving customers with the same kindness she had shown since her first day. During his afternoon patrol, Ethan noticed one of the auditors standing alone outside the records office with a puzzled expression. The auditor mentioned that several archive boxes listed on the inventory could not be located. Ethan simply replied that he had seen similar boxes moved to storage earlier in the week, but did not speculate further. The auditor thanked him and quietly wrote something in a notebook before walking away. Ethan understood that even a simple observation could become an important piece of a much larger puzzle. As the review continued, Monica became increasingly anxious. She checked the hallway every few minutes and whispered hurried instructions whenever Brandon passed nearby. Their confidence was beginning to disappear. By late afternoon, the lead auditor announced that one final executive visitor would arrive before the review officially concluded. The news spread through the branch almost instantly. Employees hurried to straighten desks and organize paperwork one last time. Monica smiled again, convinced she could still control the situation. Brandon adjusted his uniform and prepared to impress whoever was coming through the front doors. Olivia simply focused on helping her final customers of the day. Ethan stood quietly at his post, already knowing exactly who the unexpected visitor would be, and realizing that the moment he had patiently waited for since putting on the security uniform was finally only minutes away. Every employee gathered in the main lobby as the final visitor arrived. Conversation stopped almost instantly when Victor Carter walked through the front doors, accompanied by the lead compliance auditor and two members of the corporate board. Monica greeted him with complete confidence, convinced the inspection had gone well enough to protect her position. Brandon stood proudly near the security desk, hoping his professionalism had made the right impression. Olivia quietly joined the other employees, uncertain why the founder of the bank had decided to appear in person during the final moments of the review. Victor thanked everyone for their hard work before asking the auditors whether they had completed their preliminary findings. The lead auditor explained that several document inconsistencies remained unresolved and that important archive records could not be verified. Monica immediately stepped forward, insisting that minor filing delays were normal during the opening weeks of a new branch. She smiled politely, while assuring everyone that the missing records would be located before the final report was submitted. Victor listened without interrupting. Then he slowly turned toward Ethan, who was still standing quietly beside the entrance in his security uniform. Monica noticed the movement and quickly spoke again, suggesting that security staff should return to their regular duties while management handled executive discussions. Victor ignored the suggestion completely. Instead, he looked directly at Ethan and calmly asked, "Would you please join us?" The lobby fell silent. Brandon looked confused. Olivia glanced toward Ethan with quiet curiosity. Ethan walked forward without hesitation, stopping only a few feet from Victor. Monica forced an uneasy smile and apologized, explaining that the young security guard had only been employed for a short time and could not possibly contribute to an executive meeting. Victor smiled for the first time that morning. He placed a reassuring hand on Ethan's shoulder before turning back toward the entire branch. "I believe he is exactly the person who should be standing here," he said. No one understood what he meant. Then Victor spoke the words that instantly changed the room. "Allow me to introduce my son, Ethan Carter, and the future leader of Carter National Bank." Complete silence filled the lobby. Brandon stared in disbelief. Monica's confident expression disappeared. Several employees exchanged stunned looks, trying to understand what they had just heard. Olivia felt her heart skip for a moment as she looked at Ethan, remembering every conversation they had shared during the past week. The quiet security guard she had encouraged, thanked, and treated with respect had never been an ordinary employee at all. Ethan met her eyes with the same calm smile she had seen since the first day. Nothing about his character had changed. Only the truth had finally been revealed. Victor continued speaking, explaining that the entire assignment had been designed to evaluate the culture inside the new branch rather than test financial performance alone. He added that leadership could never be measured by polished speeches or expensive offices. It could only be measured by the way people treated those they believed had no power, and the evidence collected during the past week had revealed far more than anyone expected. No one spoke for several long seconds. The silence inside the lobby felt heavier than any speech could have been. Victor allowed everyone time to absorb the truth before inviting the lead auditor to summarize the findings collected during the review. The auditor explained that unusual document movements, altered account records, and inconsistent archive procedures had been identified and would require a formal corporate investigation. He carefully emphasized that the review had uncovered process failures and accountability concerns rather than assigning immediate conclusions to any single individual. Monica lowered her eyes as the confidence she had displayed all week quietly disappeared. Brandon stood motionless, realizing that every decision he had made while dismissing the young security guard had been witnessed by the very person who would one day lead the entire institution. Ethan stepped forward calmly. There was no anger in his voice and no desire to embarrass anyone. Instead, he thanked every employee who had treated customers with dignity, regardless of appearance or account balance. Then he spoke about the lesson that had changed him most. He admitted that he had entered the branch expecting to discover whether people respected wealth more than character. What he found was even more important. The strongest foundation of any bank was not marble floors, impressive buildings, or billion-dollar investments. It was trust. Trust was built one conversation at a time, one honest decision at a time, and one act of kindness at a time. He turned toward Olivia and smiled. He explained that throughout the entire experiment, one employee had consistently treated every person with equal respect, without knowing who they were or what they owned. She had helped elderly customers, encouraged coworkers, thanked maintenance staff, and shown kindness to a security guard everyone else overlooked. Victor nodded proudly before announcing that Olivia would be invited to join the bank's leadership development program because integrity was the quality the company valued above every other achievement. Olivia looked completely overwhelmed. She quietly thanked Victor and Ethan, explaining that she had only treated people the way she hoped her own family would be treated. Her simple answer filled the room with a different kind of silence, one built on reflection instead of surprise. Before leaving, Ethan removed the security badge from his uniform and held it carefully in his hands. He smiled and said that it would remain one of the most meaningful badges he would ever wear because it had taught him lessons no executive office could have offered. He promised the employees that when he eventually accepted a leadership role, he would never forget what it felt like to stand unnoticed at the front door while hundreds of people walked past without seeing him. As everyone slowly returned to work, the branch no longer felt the same. Smiles became more genuine. Conversations became more respectful. Employees greeted custodians by name. Customers waiting quietly in line were acknowledged instead of ignored. The experiment had ended, but its greatest result was only beginning. Ethan walked out of the bank beside his father, taking one final look back through the glass entrance where he had once stood alone in a simple security uniform. He realized that real leadership was never proven by the title on an office door. It was earned by the way a person treated others when there was nothing to gain, because true wealth was never measured by the size of a fortune, but by the character that remained when no one knew your name.